Well, now we're live. We're live. We're live. You're just talking.
We're live. Hello, world. Welcome to BB Breakdown 902. This is our weekly podcast on all things Big Brother. We're two Nova Scotian super fans that break down Big Brother each and every week. Coming to you live through Google Hangouts. My counterpart and partner in crime, Lindsay, is just uploading our links to Facebook and to Twitter. So while she does that, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everybody that tunes into us every week to hear our breakdown of Big Brother and all things Big Brother. So we'll get right into it. I'm going to do a little recap from where we left off last week, and then we'll start talking about all of our opinions on the happenings in the house and also the happenings on the live feeds. If you haven't already, we linked a YouTube video on our Twitter page of the Frank and Davon ass slapping incident that happened this week. So if you haven't watched that other than on the show, take a look at it. It's I think a 7-minute recap of what happened in the house. It's worth watching, and we'll be discussing that at the end. So okay, let's get into it. So Polly was HOH. Polly put up Bronte and Paul, and then Tiffany was a roadkill nomination, and ends up Polly wins the veto competition, the stinky feet veto competition. He takes Paul off and kind of shows some loyalty, which we discussed last week, to Paul. And the replacement nominee ends up being Victor, who they actually wanted out. So Victor was put into the backdoor position. It seems to me that he didn't try very hard to get out of that position. He kind of just accepted defeat once he was put up as a renom. From what I can tell, he didn't work very hard to and/or like reevaluate his game and get himself out of that situation. Anyhow, he ends up going home, and that's kind of the long and short of Polly's HOH. Happy that Victor went home. What did you think of Victor?
Nothing.
Yeah, he was my last pick. Yeah, he was. I don't find he added much to the house, and what he did add was just chauvinistic kind of attitude. In no better words, in my opinion, and maybe he's different, but from what I've seen on the show and or read about the feeds, he was very cocky. Maybe he'll end up winning the buyback and play a different game and surprise us all, but I doubt it. I think if he does get back in the house, he'll probably play a similar game. Do you want to say anything more about Victor before we move on?
I don't have much to say. I mean, he just like kind of accepted it and left. And he might actually get back in because I think he's like pretty strong. If it's a competition about like strength, he could do well, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. That's it. We'll see, right? Do we want to kind of rehash Tiffany's reaction to her roadkill nomination and how Vanessa 2.0? Yeah, so I wasn't at all surprised that she'd have that kind of reaction being put in up on the block, just because she is she is Vanessa's sister. I was hoping that she would kind of conceal her emotions a little more than what she did. And they also highlighted the fight that we talked about last week between her and Frank. They did a little snippet of that and have put in the building blocks of why they're butting heads. I don't know. I thought up until like Frank having like being highlighted as kind of sexist, which we'll get into, but I was kind of team Frank between him and Tiffany, but I didn't really understand the fight and why they got in it. I don't know about you, but I feel like it could have been easily resolved because it's so early on in the game. I would have tried to stay like loyal to my APAC, you know.
I think that she's a little bit I think like her sister, like, I mean, I don't know if you were saying like you expect her to be tougher because she's Vanessa's sister, but for me, like, it didn't surprise me that she bawled her eyes out. Like that was Vanessa's whole thing. Like she was tough, but she was emotional. Like she was so emotional. So it didn't surprise me that she got like all heated over this. And I think like she and Frank are probably just kind of like both pretty headstrong, and I think they just don't fit. And I think when it doesn't fit, it's just a matter of like it doesn't work, and they're trying to get each other out, and they're trying to find people along the way that it makes sense to be like, you come over here, you come over here. And I think that that's a lot what they're doing right now. So that's the way I see it.
Um, like, what did you think about her, like, calling out the entire house, saying, like, I don't trust any of you guys. You're all out to get
She's
me. Like,
emotional. She's
what?
emotional. She plays from her heart, right? So it's not like she says she's strategy and all that kind of stuff, but she's just like, she just says what she feels. And I think that that's not a person that wins Big Brother. It's just not the way you play the game. I think Frank is the better
Mhm.
player out of the two because at least he's playing um, smarter. But I think that, like, and
Yeah.
we'll get into that too.
Expecting, I was expecting more from Tiffany, I guess. Just being that Vanessa was in the game, she could have given her insight as even with the emotional card, just given her a little bit of insight how to work around that. I just think she burned a lot of bridges this week in terms of her alliance. Like she doesn't really have anyone on her side now, unless they're on her side solely to get Frank out of the house, because she, you know, in the veto competition was like looking at Davon and kind of competing with her to make sure she had a longer word. That was highlighted with Davon in the diary room. And I don't know. I think she burned a lot of bridges this week, and I'm sad because I thought she'd make it a little farther, even though she's not on my team. But she was one of the more interesting characters
I think
to watch.
you're talking in past tense like she's already left. I actually think she might not go. And I think that she is smart, and I think she'll dig in, and she's making lots of things happen. You have to understand, like, or like, I'm sure you understand, but I think like the way I see it is like we're seeing an hour of like 5 days. So they've condensed a lot of information into that like hour. So they're picking and choosing how we consume these people. Like, okay, so she's emotionless and or she's emotional and dramatic, and they wanted to see a dramatic moment. All the stuff with Frank is like positioned the way they want us to see it. Like he's a villain, he's a sexist asshole. Like all this, like Davon, she's stronger than she was before. Now she's this person. And I'm sure all these things are happening, but it's also like it's cut and edited. The whole thing with that, like, oh God, what's his name? He's so stupid but so hot. The one that Nicole really likes. I can't.
Corey.
Corey, like when he was just like,
Corey.
there's no way it was edited. Like that's how that's done. So there is somebody like maybe it's just me. I've been watching this show called Unreal on Showcase, and it is fantastic. Or I think it might be Lifetime that it's on, but it's like the behind the scenes of the production value of like what this looks like. So somebody's job is to manipulate things that happen. And I think being in a house with 18 people, there is bound to be drama, but I think like they are choosing what we see. And so I think that we will be surprised. Maybe Tiffany has like another life. I don't think she's out that door on Thursday. That's what I think.
Oh well, that's a pretty good analysis. We're gonna work our way into that, and this week, I guess we'll kind of close the door on what happened with Victor leaving, because it is what it is, and we weren't that invested in him. The only thing I wrote down that I kind of wanted to highlight was my favorite quote in the episode, the veto episode, was James in the diary room, and he's had very limited diary room because Davon's been such a star in there. But he had said, "Oh my God, this smart ass cast this year. They're spelling like 15-letter words." It made me roar in laughter. I was impressed by the spelling bee. I must say this was one of the better years for word length and like getting them spelt right. So kudos to the cast this year for brushing up on their spelling. I don't know. We'll end that episode there. Moving on to HOH competition, and it was again played in teams because we're still playing in teams. and it was whoever had the lowest score would get eliminated, whoever it may be on whichever team. And Bridget ends up winning HOH. And I don't know, her and Natalie lasted a really long time, and they were super like positive the whole time. And I don't know, I just kind of got the vibe like their positive energy is like infusing into the Big Brother game, sort of. Like I kind of like them, and I don't entirely know why, because usually, again, I go for the strategy type players, and neither one of them are too keen on that.
I like Natalie. I don't like Bridget at all.
The whole time they were playing, they were just jumping and like
Yeah,
like
sure, that's great. I think that is okay. Well, I'm getting ahead of it. You keep going, because I think that Bridget girl is like, she's clearly quite smart because she's well educated, but Jesus Christ. Like, are you kidding? Are you that dense? And like, you're like, I don't like it when bubble. I'm like, oh my God, talk like an adult. Don't be a child. Like, she just sounds so childish. It makes me so angry. She's actually not playing. She gave it all. Like, the fact that she just gave it to Frank to be like, you make the decision. I have a thought, but let's just do it your way. You have your own mind. I don't understand. It's so dumb. Don't be that girl. You're smarter than that. That's how I feel. Ugh, I hate it.
she did.
I lost so much respect for her this week.
Well, I kind of did too. I honestly like really appreciated her positive energy in winning and like playing the HOH comp.
Sure,
But then
yeah.
afterwards, when she clearly had her own opinion of who she wanted on the block, which was Corey and Nicole, and she was very right in targeting them. Like, they are going to be a power couple. They are both super strong players, and they're pretty well positioned in the house. And she identified that and quickly let Frank squash it and rule it out and basically take over her HOH. She completely ruled this week entirely. Like, he made the nominations. Then he proceeded to win the roadkill competition, which I wasn't surprised about. Frank is a beast when it comes to competitions. And this whole week was Frank's week. It wasn't Bridget's. And even if she does make it to the end, she has to make a case now because everyone is seeing her as being Frank's puppet. So now she has to make a case of, this is why I deserve to win if she does somehow make it to the end, which kind of, I had more respect for her going into the game because she is an emergency nurse and I'm a nurse as well, and I work in an emergency. So I was really rooting for her to win, but she just doesn't seem to have that, I don't know, that 30-second snapshot that you need to be an emergency nurse. And I'm not questioning her nursing skills. I'm sure she's a wonderful nurse. But as emergency nurses, we need to assess people really quickly. That's how we triage. We have to get your problem within 5 minutes and get you to the right area so we can treat you for that. And her in this game, she's just completely like off in left field. And I was just really surprised, to be honest. I'm still rooting for her. I'm hoping turnaround, but after this HOH, I'm not that hopeful or optimistic, and I usually am when I root for a player. So anyhow, that's my Bridget's gameplay. And she also she just really doesn't want to step on anybody's toes at all. That was the other thing that bothered me about her HOH. She was like, oh, my gameplay is friendship, and I really don't want to get any blood on my hands. So I think that's why.
That was the worst HOH speech I've ever heard. Ever. Stupid. I'm actually really frustrated with her. Like, you're right. Like, I guess, like, I thought she was a smart girl, and it turns out, like, my game is friendship, and this is my cat Hercules, and oh my God, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, Paul. Oh my God, be a woman. Don't be this, like, pushover Oh my God, I'm so angry. Anyway, we have a question from Twitter. Do you want to hear it?
I do.
Okay. Austin is loving our show. Austin is loving our show right now. Thank you, Austin. He said, do you at least have a favorite member of the Fatal Five? I don't know who's in the... Do you?
The Fatal Five. Yeah, the Fatal Five is the girls, right? So it's the Fatal Five is Zakia, Devon, Nicole, Michelle, and Tiffany, I thought, was the fifth, wasn't she? And they wanted to make it into the Fatal Four. If they eliminated her, they were happy to be the Fatal Four. This is a great opportunity, I guess, to go into the Nicole segue that I kind of wanted to highlight. She is playing, I think, by far the best game. She's being strategic. She's not on anybody's radar. No one has, like, from what I can tell, has said anything negative about Nicole. She's loved on all sides of the house, aside from maybe the Spy Girls are onto her in terms of like her pairing with Corey and how that could be potentially fatal for them down the line. But they still are team girls, so I think they would take Corey out over her, and then they would try and pull her in maybe. But from what I can tell, Nicole's playing, as far as I'm concerned, the best game in the house right now. And she, as we all know, she can also be a huge competitor, so that's on her side as well. I'm loving Nicole's game. I wish she was on my team. Super jealous Lindsay got her, but I love Nicole. That's, out of the Fatal Five, she's my favorite. What about you, Lynn?
I probably tend to agree. I think Nicole's playing oh, look at that fun blue line. I think that Nicole's playing an amazing game. I think that she's trying to really lean in this season, and like, you know, she's buddies with Frank, she's buddies with the girls, she's buddies with Tiffany, like she's kind of everywhere. I think for me though, like in terms of enjoyment, I'm enjoying Davon so much, so much, because I think she's who the perception I had of her before was just like this woman that came in and really wanted to play the game, but it just wasn't the right thing, and she was voted out. And I think that like we're really seeing who she is as a person, and I think that like she's not just like gonna go from 0 to 100. She's thinking about things. She's playing really smart, and I think like I've respected her more based on like the different things I've seen in the last couple of episodes. So I think that she's emotional, but she's also like emotional with strategy. Like she knows when to turn, like to bite her tongue, and she knows when to speak up. And I appreciate that about her. So I think she's playing an interesting game, and I don't think that anybody's like gunning for her. Like she was so careful about like making sure that Frank wasn't mad at her, that like, you know, she jeopardized her morals a little bit. And I think in that house you have to do what you have to do, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, like I kind of just like that's not the Davon I had pictured in my mind. So good for her. That's it.
Sweet. Yeah, that kind of answers your question, Austin. Thanks for tuning in every week. We love that about you. And we love your support with the retweets. Just putting that out there, people. Anybody else that has questions for us that's watching, throw them out there. We are more than willing to answer them live. In terms of my next question, before we get into the Frank and Davon drama that's going on in the house, what were you thinking about the showmances? Like they kind of highlighted the showmances. So there was Corey and Nicole, and then they highlighted James and Natalie, and they highlighted Zakia and Polly. I guess we'll start off with Zakia and Polly, because to me that was the most interesting one, because Frank outed the APAC alliance to Polly, I think to gain his trust more than he already had, and to pull him in to work with him more closely. And in doing so, kind of jeopardized a lot of other relationships that Polly had going on in that house a little bit, just for mistrust. And I think Zakia panicked when she heard that she wasn't the one to tell them about the APAC alliance, because in terms of the power couples that they highlighted on the show, from what I can tell from feeds, Zakia and Polly are the ones and that are the closest, and then following closely behind are Corey and Nicole and James and Natalie. I think James and Natalie are more just having fun together. Corey and Nicole are, I think, having fun together and strategizing. And then Zakia and Polly, I think, they're super like they're each other's people. So I think out of all the showmances they highlighted, they were the strongest. And I think a bit of a fracture in that by Frank doing it. And I think that was part of his goal, because he really wants it to be a bromance in the house, from what I can tell. And he was just trying to like pull Polly in more than he already had him. What did you think about that? Frank telling Polly about the APAC and the showmances too.
I don't know. I kind of
When's
I missed some of it, I'll be honest. I don't know all of that stuff about the show, man. So with I know more like the Sunday episode than the Thursday episode. So I don't really know. I can't really speak to the Polly and Zakaya stuff. Um but I feel like the other two relationships that are happening, Nicole and Corey and Natalie and James, I think that like they're just having fun and they're doing something. I don't think they're actually um strategizing per se, or at least I don't think like James and Natalie are. I think they're just enjoying one another's company. And I think James, it wasn't surprising to me that James was like, she's so pretty and I like her. And then it was very surprising to me that that Natalie was like, I like him too, and he's somebody I would be with. Like, here's Victor being like macho, macho man, like being like, hey, Natalie, blah blah blah. And turns out she likes a little like short Asian guy that's like adorable, loves country music. Who knew? Anyway, I really enjoy them. So I can't really speak to the other stuff because I missed that part. But I don't know. I kind of feel like I like, and I think that Nicole is just having fun. I don't think she's gonna fall for him, or it's not gonna be like a Hayden situation. I actually think like the only couple that might actually come out of it actually could be James and Natalie. Like they could be a thing. They seem to
you
genuinely like.
think?
Yeah, I think they genuinely like one another's company. I think that like it's just attraction between Nicole and Corey. I think it's actually they like James and Natalie enjoy one another's company and would choose to be friends with each other or like see each other. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think I'm really rooting for James to find love. I know this isn't The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or Bachelor in Paradise or any of the Bachelor franchise, but I just love James.
I
I
hate The
always have,
Bachelor.
and I'm super.
Hate.
I love The Bachelor. Not the talking about right now. However, in terms of all of those people that I would be most invested in, like actively seeing if it worked on Twitter afterwards, it would definitely. I agree with you. It would definitely be James and Natalie. So I'm rooting for them. In terms of the closest in the house right now, both game and attraction wise, I see Polly and Zakia myself, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Devon is on to them all, and she's like, "Oh my God, let's just play the game. Let's leave this for after the show." I love Devon. I'm living for her diary rooms. I'm so glad she's back, and I guess that's enough said on the showmances. We've said enough. So moving on to, I guess, the most controversial talked about, in my opinion, this week was Frank and his sexist remarks. He made quite a few of them to almost every girl. And then he slapped Devon on the bum twice. And it's getting lots of like Twitter talk. It's getting lots, I'm sure, Facebook talk. I don't follow Big Brother on Facebook, but I follow it on Twitter. And let's talk about that. Let's just get right into it. What do you think of that? Do you think it's production living it up, or do you think it's just Frank and this is how he is towards women, and it's just being highlighted more this season than it was the previous season that he was in?
I think that Frank comes from a generation that behavior is seen as funny and that's his kind of like humor. And I think that no one has probably told him that it's inappropriate. So do I think he would consider himself sexist and rude and stepping over the line? No. Do I think that he is? Yes. I think that no one has probably told him that he's like obnoxious in that way. And I think when he played it the first time, he was like Mike Boogie, and like I don't even know that like feminism was where it is now, like those years ago. So I think that like the things that we as a culture all focus on, this is like way over the line, super inappropriate. But I think a part of me kind of feels like it's his way of showing endearment. Like I actually kind of believe him when he says that. Like, oh, I just thought we were super close and could like shoot the shit. Like I have a friend that's gay, and we're always like, I say so many things to him that I would never say to anybody else. because like he and I have that type of relationship. And then as a joke, I said it to one other person and they were really hurt by it. And said something to me. And like, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean it that way. So I think sometimes things can be misinterpreted. And I think, shut your damn mouth and slapping on the butt. I think he's just thinking they're shooting the shit. And, when she's like, I'm only a slut on Tuesdays and stuff, like, that reaction is saying like, I condone your behavior right there. Like, so for me, I do agree that like he is stepping over a line, but I also think like until it was, I would be surprised if he does it again. If he does it again, then I'd be like, yeah, he's a sexist pig and that's not how he should be and blah, blah, blah. And they should remove him from the house. But I don't think that anyone has really told him. And now that she's told him, I doubt that he'll do it again. Because I don't think he's like innately nasty or rude. I think he cares about people. I just think like he's playing a game. He thought he was being funny. He crossed the line. She told him he crossed the line. I don't think it'll happen again. That's my view on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I genuinely think that I agree with Yvonne's reaction. She felt quite strongly about it. I think I would have had the exact same reaction because she's walking that fine line. Like you're in a house, you're secluded, you're on lockdown, you can't leave, and you're forced to deal with these situations. If you were put in that situation, you could just tell the person to fuck off or leave or whatever. However you would handle it, you could handle it and then walk away. Devon is forced to confront it diplomatically, really, and still play a game because she wants, it's so hard, right? Like not only does she have to confront it diplomatically, but she has to like play a game, and she's working with him right now. So I can't imagine like the position Devon's in. And on top of that, she's being a role model to her daughter right now. She even said that. So I can see how it was so hard for her. I think I would have had the exact same reaction she had. But in the same sense, the honest, raw reaction that Frank had, from what I saw, was true shock. Like he was actually like, just, oh my God. And I think he was legitimately hurt that he had hurt her, because I do think he respects Devon and he wants to work with her long term in the game and wants to be friends with her outside the house. So as hard as it is, currently like pro feminism and how far we've come with that and the respect that we deserve as equals. But at the same sense, like it's not uncommon for athletes, like if you look at it that way, for athletes to just smack each other on the ass, like playfully and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I think he thought he was close enough to date that was okay, and she never really squandered it to the second time where she had a bit of an emotional reaction, in all fairness,
and rightfully
and
so. Yeah.
Right. So I don't think it's going to happen again, though. And I was also following on Twitter because Janelle, when she played with them, didn't like Frank, and maybe it was for some of the same reasons that we're seeing here. And she said on Twitter, she made it quite open and quite clear that, she has no ill will towards him. They've squandered their differences they had inside the house, and she's friends with him now. So, I mean, I honestly don't think Frank really, like you said, I think he grows up in a very Southern family that maybe this is acceptable behavior, and he didn't know any different. And that's not to say it's right. I don't agree that it's right, but until you're told that it's not acceptable, right? And that's not the type of behavior you give to women or to anyone, right?
And I agree. And I think that like she, from where she was coming from, it was really hard as a viewer to watch it, because you're thinking to yourself, now I'm not a mom, but like you're thinking to yourself, like she's handling herself so well in that house. She's grown as a person. And I think that seeing her, have to kind of like go through that and just take a second in the diary room and like get her thoughts together and be like, I'm raising a daughter and like that's not acceptable behavior. Like it allowed, I was surprised that she didn't talk to him, that he got her and kind of said like, can we talk? That she didn't do it. But maybe she
Yeah.
felt threatened or didn't want to put herself in a situation where, you know, she was running the conversation, like it was his kind of thing to ask her to come with him so he could apologize. Like that's on that person. And I kind of feel like, you know, but I think it was a really huge misunderstanding. And I guess, like, I agree, like, I'm completely in agreement with you. I do not condone that behavior. I don't think it's the right kind of behavior. I just don't know that he knew any better. And that makes me feel icky saying it because I think, like, anybody knows, like, hitting a girl in the butt is, like, the wrong, but, like, I think Southern culture is a little bit different than what we're used to. And I think, I mean, like, I don't know. It was just like I think he's actually kind of innocent in it, and he seemed so genuinely shocked that he had hurt her feelings. And so, and I think she knew that too. And I think the way it was edited, like she clearly had, she was composed, and you know, she'll still go after him. I don't think she likes his game and all that kind of stuff, but she's not playing with her heart, she's playing with her head. And I think he's trying to do the same thing. And I think they just kind of like roadblocked each other, like in a way. Like they just kind of just had a misunderstanding. I don't think he would ever, ever, ever had put her up for that. Like the fact that she thought that, I don't think that was ever an option. I don't think he would ever be like, I'm going to use my roadkill on her, or we need to put her up. That's not his gameplay. I don't think that that was his intention. I think she felt that because it felt so, so emotional to her, but I don't think he ever had her on the table. I don't think he's out for her at all. I think he sees her as a friend.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that in terms of, even though Frank is trying to rally up the boys and have that romance that we see forming between him, Polly, and James, as much as that is so, I still think that the most loyal alliance, if it wasn't fractured from this week, would have been the veterans. I think the veterans, all those very loyal people, and I think they especially James and especially Frank, they would have stayed loyal to that Final Four alliance. And I think, unfortunately, now that Devon has openly made it clear that she is coming after Frank after this week, and not just that, Devon is a very smart Big Brother player. She's very cunning, and she knows how well positioned Frank is in the house, and what a competitor he is. So I'm just saying, I'm putting that out there, that as much as, and I'm not discrediting it or her at all for her reaction or how she was hurt, she very much could use this week to her advantage to rally the troops against Frank. So just putting that out there. She's a very smart player. Like, I'm giving her credit where it's due. I'm not saying that this is the type of situation that you turn around that way, but it's a very good opportunity to turn the tables on Frank, who up until this point has, even though people know he's a strong competitor and that he's here to play, they're very afraid to make a move against him. And they should be, because as we've seen in the season he played, it's not easy to get Frank out of the house. So they're going to have their, unless they backdoor him, they're going to have their, a bit of a time getting him out, I think. So we'll see how next week plays out, who wins HOH. Maybe he'll win HOH. Only time will tell. That'll be just around the corner there. We'll find out who wins HOH this week. So anyways, that's my opinion on Frank and Devon. It's interesting to see, dynamics unfold in the house in these types of situations and how they're handled, because it is a social experiment, right? That's what Big Brother is. And it's fun to sit back and say what we do or what we think. But until you're put in that situation where you're confined with that person that you're having a beef with and you're playing a game for $500,000, you don't know how you're going to act. Maybe we would go in the house thinking we'd be super strategic and then end up being a Bridget. Like, I don't want to get blood on my hands. I don't think I'd be that player, but you don't know until you're put in the situation, right? So anyhow.
Yeah.
Okay. We kind of
We have to
covered like
move on here.
the the big meat of the week. So Bridget, she nominates basically who Frank wants her to. So she puts Tiffany and Paul on the block. I want to take just a moment to talk a little bit about Paul and how he's recovered. What do you think? Happy he's recovered from last week, as I thought he would.
I think
I was kind of disappointed in his veto speech when Polly took him off, though, about how friendship will prevail. I wish she would have just stayed quiet and let Polly take him off the block and not like made such a spectacle of it. But I think he's made a really good turnaround of, even though he's being put on the block, he's not actually being targeted now. So it's kind of nice to see, because I was a fan of Paul.
Okay, he's growing on me.
He's very much the under. Yeah? What's your opinion on Paul?
I keep trying. It's okay. I think he's growing on me a little bit. I think his buddies went out the door. He's keeping quiet, and he knows he's the next person on the list if he doesn't keep quiet. So I think he's smart, and I think he's playing, and yeah, I don't know. Like for me, like he's just like, now he's kind of boring. Like next, let's figure out who's going out this week. Like I'm just like, oh cool. He's up there, but like he's not going home. It's Tiffany or Bronte. That's who's going.
Yeah, that's how it seems, eh? So the roadkill, Frank crushes it again. He ends up winning the roadkill, and he puts Bronte up to solidify Tiffany leaving. But now, from what I can tell, today anyway, Devon's rallied the troops and said, let's keep Tiffany. She's gonna get Frank. She'll stay with us in the fight to get Frank out. Let's keep her, and let's blindside Frank. So that's kind of what's going on in the house right now. What are your thoughts on that? So
I think
first it was everybody, okay, let's get Tiffany. Let's keep her.
I think I always kind of thought, like, the second Bronte went up, I was like, uh-oh. Like, it was kind of shocking that he put her up, because I think that she's a smart player, yes, Bronte, but I think that it's actually going to hurt her. So here's what I think is going to happen. Yes, Davon's going to try to keep Tiffany. She's going to get the numbers. She's going to make a good case. They'll keep Tiffany. Paul won't be voted out because Paul is more adaptable than Bronte, because Bronte has a backbone and she'll probably ask questions and say, but why, but how? And so I think Bronte's luck is up at this point. I think she's going.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I was never really invested in her from the get-go. So her character, she's a super nerd casted this season, but in my opinion, she's not as nerdy as she claims to be, just from her preseason bio. I mean, she has a lot of fans. I'm sorry if there's any Bronte fans watching, but personally, she's not my cup of tea. I'm not drinking what she's offering. I'm done with her. Let's move on. Let's vote her out. Like,
yeah,
I'm ready to move on. Let's have Bronte voted out. She's probably not going to win the buyback, I don't think. And and what's with this buyback? I thought it would have started already.
No, they do it for 4 people. They need a 4th person. They only have 3 people. They need 4 people to do it.
No, yeah, but it's the first 5 that are going to compete. But I thought they were going to do it week to week. So they would have competed with the first 2, and then they would have had the winner and evicted, and then those 2 compete. But are they going to do it all at once, I guess? It's going to be like a full episode.
I'm not sure.
It's weird, right?
They don't have enough time to put all that in there. Like, this is the thing. They don't have the time. So I think they might just, I don't know, Big Brother, figure your life out. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Like, I think it's an awesome twist if they would have played out the way I thought it would have played out. But now it's just going to go all in one episode, and it's just going to be what happens if a lot of drama happens that week that they need to fill, and this buyback option is just going to slide, like, and not even happen, or what? Like, I don't know. what are your guys' thoughts? Tweet at us and let us know what you think of this buyback twist. I think it's a good thought in theory, but I don't see it happening. Like, why isn't it happening already? Anyway, that's my thoughts on buyback. Tweet at us if you have thoughts on it. And I think that's all that I wanted to say about Big Brother this week. Any closing thoughts for you, Linz?
No, I watched Sunday's episode twice. I thought it was that good. I was intrigued by it. I find this season a little bit slower than most, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot, and I think that the people on it are really good. And I think for me, Big Brother becomes Big Brother when it's like you're down to the last like 10 or 8 people. Right now, there's just so many players. There's so many things happening. Like, you know, they always do this. They get rid of like the small people and then they go for the big at the end. So I think we have lots more to come. I think it's gonna get really good.
Yeah, I'll be happy when the teams are done. I feel like it served a purpose in the veterans around for at least a couple weeks and to get them integrated without just everybody going against them. But now I'm kind of like done with the teams and the safety that provides. I want to see like a bit of more of a bloodbath, a little more strategy happening. I find there's not that much strategy happening right now. It's still kind of one-sided, like, which I'm surprised about because there's 3 noms. I would have thought it would be a bit more divided, but we're still kind of seeing the house go one way. So I just kind of teams to be done. That's that little bit of a cushion to be done. And I'm happy with the other twist. I like the roadkill, and I do like this buyback that whenever we see it, I'll like
when we see it. Yeah.
But kind of done with the teams. Like, I don't think it offered much other than the veterans being safe because no one's really like aligning with their team that much, really. Like, if you look at it. So, anyway, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. This was a lot this week to cover. Like, look at my stack of papers. It's a lot more than previous weeks. But yeah, no, it was fun. I enjoyed this week more than the first couple weeks. Like, there was a lot to bite on. So yeah. Anyhow.
Awesome.
All right. Well, again, thanks to everyone who tunes in to us every week. We appreciate your support. If you want to tweet at us on Twitter, we'll always respond. And it makes our heart smile. So thanks for tuning in every week. We'll be back again next week. We'll be tweeting out when we'll be back. We have to converse about that when the show closes, just because I'm a shift worker and Lindsay is busy in the world of books. So she's a superstar in the world of books. If you want to follow her, you can at Reader Reads, and my normal Twitter handles at NSML, our normal lives, but we don't expect you to. Aside from that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving us your comments and questions on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.